Ladies and gentlemen, from an undisclosed location in Portland, Oregon, the spare bedroom, it's time for MTG Tonight with your host, Jake Boss.
Tonight on the program, we're going to be discussing Mono Blue Mill with my good friend Chris Tabor, and then later on, Maci DeBlanc is going to join us, and she's going to take us in and out of commercial break, which is, of course, really just 2 seconds of black. But without further ado, please welcome through the magic of television, Chris Tabor. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
That one worked this time.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, this is not our first time recording this episode, is it?
No, it is not.
Yeah. So we shot a whole episode. It was a really great conversation. But unfortunately, we had some audio problems and had to say sayonara to that footage. But we're here again. He's back. He graciously donated his time to this show. Yeah. Anyway, you've had one hell of a week.
Yes, I have.
Tell me about it.
It's definitely been a little rough. As you know, I'm a Uber and Lyft driver, so primarily my livelihood is based off of driving every day and making money.
Meeting weirdos, drunk people.
Yep. Well, not too many drunk people. I don't work nights that much.
Okay.
Just work during the day, so it makes it so
people can get drunk during the day, and that's just fine.
That is true. I have had a couple of drunk people during the day, but we'll get away from that.
Anyway.
So my car broke down last night on the side of the road as I was coming home from my other job, and
which is definitely just something fixable. It's a flat tire. It's a
no, not at all. It's a transmission issue.
Well, that blows.
Yeah. So I was already pre-scheduled to have like normal maintenance done tomorrow morning, and instead of doing the maintenance, I'm at that point where it's like, I'll just trade in the vehicle.
Wow.
Get something new.
It's impressive when people are able to separate themselves from an intense right now problem and say, okay, I'm going to do these things that I must do. Problem will be taken care of as much as it possibly can be, and I'm moving on.
Yep.
Like, I definitely commend you for that. But
yeah.
Lyft and Uber is only your part-time gig right now, right?
Yes. Currently, it has moved to part-time. I started a new job about, month and a half ago. I am working in a lab. My official title is a lab tech, but I'm really a chemist. What I do is chemistry.
Which is what you got your degree in.
Yeah, I have a degree in biology and chemistry,
nice.
Bachelor's degree. And so I actually get to use my degree, and I'll move on from here, and it will be my career from moving on forward. So
that's a really huge moment for people.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what can you do with a film school degree besides start a Tonight Show in your in your apartment? But no, that's really impressive that you're able to finally use this after years.
A good chunk of time, yeah.
Because you wanted to be a zookeeper.
Yeah. So when I first graduated, my plan was to become a zookeeper, and I had health issues, which because of those health issues and the surgeries that I had, I'm no longer able to go into that field. So that's where I went to the Uber life and, just biding my time until the right thing came along.
Those are honestly like really solid. If you ever just need money, as long as you have a vehicle that can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
If ever your bills change or your situation just changes, you can check into it. As long as you don't have 3 DUIs and, a busted up car. Then.
Yeah.
So these things that are pretty unfortunate that have happened recently, is that why you play this deck? Do you just hate other people now? What happened to you that makes you want to mill other people out?
So I got into mill when I first started playing Magic, like competitive Magic. My roommate taught me how to play Magic when I was in college. He had a bunch of cards and was like, hey, go, taught me the mechanics, taught me, creatures, instant sorceries, enchantments, all that kind of stuff. Artifacts, what the mana was for, all that kind of stuff. Gave me all his cards and was like, build a deck out of this. And I was like, okay. And so I built a pretty good deck. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon when I was in high school. So I had an understanding of like how to build something to where, I lost every single game against him. But I built something that he wasn't just like running over me.
So you were good at evaluating cards.
Yeah, so it was a competitive games that we would have. But I would still lose because I would, he's been playing for years and years, and so I wouldn't know a few certain things like, I should do instants after combat has initiated, not pre-combat in main phase 1.
I feel like that's a life lesson. Honestly, how many times in your life have you said, you know, this is a lot like when I should just wait to bolt the creature until their end of turn anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I should just wait to tell my job, hey, I'm looking for other jobs now, or something. Yeah. Like, I feel like concepts like this actually apply in everyday life and relationships and stuff.
Yeah, so after I came back from college, you know, he graduated a year before I did, so I didn't play Magic for a full year. I graduated, came back home I went to school out in Oklahoma, so I came back home, and we had been really good friends for a long time. He lives here in town. We both grew up here, and then went out to school in the Midwest, and so when I came back, you know, I touched base with him. I came back as a poor college student, so I was living at home. He was in a new apartment. And he was like, oh, I'm going to go play Magic at this store. I was like,
which store?
That store.
Rainy Day Games. Not a sponsor. They're just cool, right?
And so I tagged along, and he was, just to, you know, get a feel of like what was going on. He was playing in a standard tournament. He doesn't play tournaments anymore, which is weird. That the one time I came back, he was playing in a tournament and was like, hey, let's...
Or maybe Chris came back into town and he's like, well, I guess I can't play Magic anymore.
Yeah, maybe. And so when I got into the game, like actually got into the game after college, it was during Innistrad and Dark Ascension and all that kind of stuff.
That's a really good time to get into it.
Decks around that time, we had Swords and with New Phyrexia, and, I had Liliana and, all that kind of good stuff. But there was a hidden mechanic and no one built around it. And it was Zombie Mill. I built a blue-black Zombie Mill deck during that time period and play Standard. I don't play Constructed anymore. I pretty much only play EDH and Limited. And people, I don't think I'm that great of a Limited player, but a lot of my friends are like, you're a good Limited player.
I think that it's because of your ability to evaluate cards and as a deck builder.
Yeah.
And, of course, friend of the show, Adam Lazar, you built a good portion of his God Tribal deck.
I did, yeah. Of course, he put in dual lands and shocks and fetches and all that kind of good stuff.
Well, if you're going to have your dual lands, you need your fetches. And if you're going to have fetches, you need shocks.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're a budget player?
Yes and no. My land base is actually really, really small.
Vivid lands.
Yeah, no, so it's like
Panoramas.
tri-lands. Yeah, tri-lands. I have shocks in it from the newest set that just came out because I went to a pre-release and I opened all of them. So I was able to just like dump them in. So I didn't have to go out and, pay like $15 for a shock land. I got them in packs and was like, oh, cool. I have them.
It's a great time to be a Magic player for sure.
Okay.
What sort of cards speak to you in like the $15 to $50 range where you say, okay, yes, this is worth the money?
Soul Ring is a card that you have to have in every deck. They're sitting at $5 right now, which is really high.
You're kidding.
Them, even though there's tons of prints for them.
Yeah, I can't go to the bathroom without stepping on a Soul Ring.
Yeah, they're actually they're at a decent price right now. In a couple of my decks, I have some of the Eldrazi Titans, Emrakul's or Kozilek's or stuff like that.
In case some jerk tries to mill you.
Yeah.
Okay, we got problems. We're going to discuss that later. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to be talking about Chris's actual deck instead of just hinting at it. Mono Blue Mill, don't go anywhere.
And if I stay here another day, I can't help it. I won't fight it. Can't describe it. I know you see I won't be the same from this moment. I won't show it. Damn hypocrite. I need this fog to just lift away. Wasted, falling through the cracks and trying not to... There's nothing like the bottom of the barrel to make you want to maul all of the mirrors. There's nothing like the bottom of a bottle.
We are back and we are discussing Mono Blue Mill with my friend Chris Tabor. Chris, I want to start off with why?
Why?
Why do you do this to people? It's the worst way to die. It's the most inefficient way to die because you have to mill something like 270 cards. Why are you doing this?
So like we talked earlier, I came in when I first started playing. I played that blue zombie.
All right, well that's a terrible excuse. What cards made it possible?
So I just enjoy mill. Like I've milled people out with decks that don't mill.
That reminds me of the time that I milled him out with Naya dinosaurs, by the way.
Yeah, we won't
Just
talk about that.
mention
We won't talk about that. We won't talk about that.
Okay, show me your deck.
My commander is Kami.
And how far into the deck building process did you decide on Kami?
I knew I wanted to do a mono color. So when I first started building this deck, I had 3 decks already, but I wasn't really playing any of them. And so I was like, I need something new, something exciting, something I enjoy playing. Mill has always been that idea that I've enjoyed playing. Most people hate playing against it.
It's like a grind on both sides.
It is. It really is. But I've always enjoyed playing it.
So what would you say the first few cards that went to the deck were?
Well, the first card, so when I first built this, it was around the time when Fraying Sanity first popped up.
That got a lot of people thinking standard.
It got a lot of people thinking in standard. So I had the base of the deck built. And then I was able to morph the deck more around Fraying Sanity.
So this was your inciting incident.
Yeah, Fraying Sanity was a top card for me. There are certain combos that I can do just with Fraying Sanity. Obviously, there's Traumatize.
And Traumatize is...
Traumatize it's a sorcery. It's a 5-cost sorcery. Target player puts top half of their library into the graveyard.
And the way that works with Fraying Sanity, because we haven't read it up until this point, is at your end step, you mill however many cards have been put into your graveyard.
That's turn. And it's not just your turn when that happens. It's any turn that a card has entered your graveyard, you're going to mill for however many cards. So if a creature dies as a blocker on someone else's turn, you're going to mill an extra card on top of that because a creature hit your graveyard. So traumatizing someone, sure, that's an instant way to get someone out of the game.
By their end step.
Yeah, by their end step.
But it would be by your end step.
It would be by... No,
Vidal...
it would technically be their upkeep. You only lose to mill when you're forced to draw and you can't draw again.
Okay.
So at their draw step, that's when they would lose. Unless I play a card that says, hey, everyone draw a card. Which I do.
We should explain this for people. If you've made it this far into the show without knowing what milling is, thank you so much for loving this show that much that you stuck around not knowing that milling, of course, is taking the top card of your library and putting it into your graveyard.
Yep.
And if you cannot draw a card, there are no cards left in your library, then you lose the game.
Yep. And that's how it is for standard, modern.
That's just a rule of Magic.
Rule of Magic.
Just like Mana Burn.
Yep.
Well,
no, not even. Even if I have Fraying Sanity out, I might not use Traumatize on the person that has Fraying Sanity. If I know that person has an Eldrazi, or there's other cards outside of Eldrazi's that kind of shuffle back into your deck when they're put in the graveyard, I won't Traumatize someone because that would be a waste of a Traumatize.
So explain to me this: how do you deal with Eldrazi or Nexus of Fate or Blightsteel?
Blightsteel Colossus is another one.
Another one.
Progenitus is another one.
Abundance.
I don't come across Abundance too often. It's there. People do play it. I actually play it, and I used to play it in another one of my decks.
It says that if you would draw a card, you choose land or non-land and reveal until you hit that.
Yep.
But you never actually draw the card. You just put it into your hand.
Correct. It takes away from the draw step. So it's a replacement effect for draw. So even if there's no cards to look for, you're still not drawing because you're doing Abundance instead.
And it's not just in the draw step. It's any time you would draw a card.
Yeah.
So you can't Temple Bell everybody and be like, sorry, guys.
Yeah. There's certain cards in my deck that, will bounce everything.
Cyclonic Rift.
Cyclonic Rift is one. And then Venser, Shaper Savant, is another one. Venser is technically my only counter spell in the whole deck.
And what does he do?
So he's a flash creature. He's a 4-cost flash creature. He's a 2/2 creature. When he enters the battlefield, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand.
So why is this Why would you pay 4 mana for a counterspell, though? What's the advantage?
As a creature, I can copy this.
Okay, and since it's entered the battlefield, not cast.
Since it's entered the battlefield and not cast, I can just keep copying this card.
That's nice.
And so I do play with a lot of copies, a lot of clones.
Cackling Counterpart.
Cackling Counterpart, clone itself. I also play with Vizier, Phantasmal Image, and Stunt Double. So those are my 5 clones. Vizier is something that you can bring, cast out of your graveyard again. Cackling Counterpart is something you can cast out of your graveyard again. So there's 7 clones right there. I won't typically always be using them to clone Venser.
Okay.
But Venser is definitely a priority as a target because it can put an Eldrazi back into someone's hand.
So it's just letting the mill player durdle around for a little bit longer before you go in for the snap kill, which is...
So I have multiple ways of finishing a game.
Okay.
Psychosis Crawler. Psychosis Crawler is whenever I draw, each opponent loses a life. So if I have multiple Psychosis Crawlers, every time I draw a card, the most I've ever had in a game was 4 Psychosis Crawlers.
Wow.
Someone allowed me to have 4 Psychosis Crawlers.
And Kami, you're drawing 2 cards no matter what.
I'm drawing 2 cards. I have tons of draw in my deck. My deck is mainly a draw mill.
Okay.
Whenever I draw something, you guys are milling cards. Or in case of Psychosis Crawler, my only way of really damaging someone out in a game is through Psychosis Crawler. So me having 4 Psychosis Crawlers, every time I draw a card, every single opponent's taking 4 damage. So if I'm drawing 4 cards a turn, 16 damage.
But realistically, we can expect
1 or 2 being in play.
Which is still definitely useful.
Definitely 2 if I can get Psychosis Crawler out and then Sihili's Artistry right after. That's one of my win mechanics is by life loss.
Which is interesting that it's a total deviation from the original strategy.
It is, but it's also a deviation with inside the rest of my cards that work towards mill that most people are worried about. And so people worry more about Psychosis Crawler than my other stuff. So it is a way for me to win, but it's also a deterrent for them going after the stuff I actually want to win the game with. So it's that little mind trick.
It's a magnet for removal.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said as well for it being a 4-player game.
Yeah.
You're not fighting against 40 life opponents. By the time this becomes relevant, you'll probably have them around 20 or, something like that.
I've won quickly just with Psychosis Crawler.
What's the most common way that you would win?
I played on Wednesday at Rainy Day, and the first game I played with it, I milled all 3 people.
Wow.
Pretty easily.
So Fraying Sanity is only going to enchant 1 player, though. What are we doing to the rest of these people?
So Fraying Sanity will enchant 1 person. I do have copy enchantment in the deck, so I can enchant another person. My other main one is Drowned Secrets. Drowned Secrets is a new card from the newest set.
Okay.
Whenever I cast a blue spell, every card in my deck is blue. Target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard.
Jeez.
So there's one. Sphinx Tutelage, another one. With all the draw mechanics that I have in the deck. Every time I draw a card, I choose an opponent, target opponent. They mill the top 2 cards. If they share a color in their CMC cost, they mill 2 more. And keep going until they either hit 2 cards that are different color CMC or a land.
Okay.
So with 1 tutelage trigger, the most I've milled someone who was playing a mono black deck was 10 cards off of 1 tutelage trigger.
Wow.
And so say I have 4 more of those.
They're just praying for a swamp.
Yeah, so milling someone, 10, 15 cards off of 4 tutelage triggers is a normal thing.
Wow.
So I can get through decks pretty quickly.
And this used to be a standard deck, didn't it?
Tutelage was in standard. People did play with it.
Most cards have been in standard.
Yeah.
Can you tell that I started playing in Shadows over Innistrad?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of talking out of a behind. Anyway.
Another card, obviously, outside of Traumatize is Ristic Study. So Ristic Study allows me to keep drawing on other people's turns. And so I'm just filling my hand at that point.
And if anybody asks you, do you want to pay the one for my Ristic Study? Say yes.
Yeah.
Just, it's not a question.
Yeah.
You're not getting your card. When you think about card advantage and you're against 3 players, we consider 2 mana for drawing a card as good economy, right? Or fair economy. So when someone else is going to have card advantage of you in a 4-player situation, I'm no mathematician, but half a mana seems to be what it's worth, but I'm still going to pay the full thing. I'll round up. I don't care.
Another card that works well in this deck is Mind Crank. Whenever an opponent loses life, they mill that many cards. Okay. So it's a deterrent from them attacking me because it gets rid of cards from other people. And people are like that. They hate mill, but they also don't want their opponents to have cards. And so they secretly like mill, which allows me to build what I need to build to win the game.
One artifact that's in this deck drove me crazy recently was Teferi's Puzzle Box.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I used to think, oh man, this card is so cool. It'd be fun to play. You know, I'm a Possibility Storm kind of guy. But somebody has to answer it, and they have to answer it in that turn or it's not happening.
Yeah.
So tell us about Teferi's Puzzle Box.
So Teferi's Puzzle Box works really well with a lot of these cards that have kind of gone over already, especially Psychosis Crawler, Tutelage, and Archmage Ascension. Teferi's Puzzle Box states that at each player's draw step, they're tucking their cards in their hand, basically. The tucking's not really in a terminology used much anymore, but it's what they're doing.
You put them on the bottom of your library.
You're putting them on the bottom of your library, and then you're drawing that many cards.
Okay.
So you're seeing more cards coming out, but you're not keeping those cards. Teferi's Puzzle Box is going to get rid of your hand every single.
It is a huge pain in the ass.
It is. But it's great for me, especially with Psychosis Crawler or Tutelage in play, because every single turn I'm drawing 7 or 8 cards or more if I have Reliquary Tower or Vinzer's Journal in play, because my hand is just going to stay big for most of the game. And so if I'm puzzle boxing with those cards, there's going to be 15 Tutelage triggers on play, or there's going to be 15 Psychosis Crawler triggers. Wow. And so it goes off, especially if I have Rhystic Study and I'm drawing off of other people's turns.
So what is this card that you have underneath Teferi's Puzzle Box?
So another big win condition, and this win condition is easily interrupted. So people interrupt it pretty quickly because they know what it does, especially the people that I play with.
Okay.
Because they've seen it. If they see it one time go off, they're like, once the card drops, it's gone.
It's this card, the quest counter.
Yeah, this is Archmage Ascension. It states at the beginning of each instep, if I've drawn more than 2 cards in the turn, I put a quest counter on Archmage Ascension. Once Archmage Ascension has 6 quest counters on it, instead of drawing, I just go tutor for whatever card I want. Go grab any card I want. This allows me to go infinite.
And what are you using to go infinite with it? Just give me the full pieces.
The card that I go infinite with is Nexus of Fate.
Okay.
So this was the one card that I had to put in this deck.
So it says you take an extra turn, you shuffle back into the library.
So yeah, so most extra turn cards are exiled after you play them. They're sorceries and they get exiled after you play the card. Nexus of Fate is different. It's an instant, which is unheard of for extra turn cards.
Yeah.
So I can play it on other people's turn and just take the next turn after. So with Archmage, if I have Archmage at 6 quest counters, I just go grab this every single turn. And then by the time Archmage is at 6 quest counters, I'm going to have the mana to cast Nexus of Fate whenever I want to.
If we can demonstrate an infinite combo, then most people are willing to scoop and say that's it, right?
Yes. If I demonstrate this combo, everyone at the tables go scoop. The time you saw this play, which you were telling people to get rid of the card, no one was paying attention to you. We were at Adams. We were playing a 6-person commander game, which no one really plays these days.
Yeah.
And so cards were kind of getting hidden on my side of the field, which was nice for me because no one knew what I was doing.
To be honest, I didn't know what you had on the field, and even if I did, I wouldn't have known what it did. But I just know that I've had my ass kicked by this deck before, and it wasn't going to happen that night.
Yeah.
And there we are. We're Nexus of Fate every single turn, and people are acting like this is fine.
Yeah. And so I was kind of hidden. You know, I stated the card when it came out. It was like Archmage Ascension's coming into play. Every turn I was putting quest counters because I had Kami in play. So at every end step I was like, oh, quest counter, quest counter. And then I stole a doubling season off of Copy Enchantment. So I was putting more quest counters on it because doubling season hits quest counters. And so after like 3 or 4 turns of Archmage being in play, I had 6 counters on it. And I stated at the beginning of my turn when I had 6 on it, I was like, you guys, I'm going infinite. I'm going to win this game. And they all looked at me and were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, Archmage. I have Archmage in play. It's been in play for about 4 turns now. It's at 6 quest counters. I have Nexus of Fate in my deck. I'm just going to take infinite turns and win the game. And they were like, oh.
We'll just wait for you to be done then.
Yeah. So they were like, okay, cool. We're done playing.
So that's it.
Yeah.
The fun's over. Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah. And Adam was trying his best. He didn't have removal for enchantments because he was playing his Enchantress deck. And
at one point I had puzzle boxed into Merciless Eviction.
Yep.
But I didn't have the mana that I needed.
Yep. That's another reason why puzzle box is in there, to get rid of those answers.
I'm playing against God Tribal Enchantress and this stupid mill deck, and I have Merciless Eviction to exile all of them.
Yep.
Didn't matter.
Can't play it. Yep.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I really want to say thank you for bringing this in because this is a super interesting deck to be our episode 2. So we'll definitely have you back at some point in the future. And we'll actually put this episode out this time instead of having to scrap it. But don't go away. Don't skip ahead to any time codes because we're going to be right back.
I'll come and stomp around on all your shards of bottles. No, I'll never cut it out. I'll tell you that you owe me all.
We are back. I want to thank you so much for watching the show. If you like what we're doing, consider subscribing. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/MTG Tonight. Now to help us close out the show, please welcome playing her song, Heaven, Maci DeBlanc.
Below the places where you've slept, can't help but filling up my head. So I stand on my breath. This time the hatchet is a wrench. You know I'll bury it again. You know I'll bury it again. But if heaven's so lonely, won't you stop because I've got no way to come along. If you really miss me, you would know it's worth it to fall. I really don't want to climb up. Stranger, won't you accept I'm not poisoning your head? Just got a little bit upset. That stairway leads to the end, and you're losing all your friends. You think you're better than the rest. You're not better than the rest. But if heaven's so lonely, won't you stop with perfect? Because I've got no way to come along. If you really missed me, you would know it's worth it to fall. I really don't want to climb up. And if heaven's so lonely, won't you stop with perfect? Because I've got no way to come along. If you really missed me, you would know it's worth it to fall. I really don't want to climb up. Time has gone through your head. It's worse a seconds lay to rest. Too good to say you have regrets. So I stand on my breath. This time the hatchet is a wrench. You know I'll bury it again. You know I'll bury it again. But if heaven's so lonely, won't you stop with perfect? Because I've got no way to come along. If you really missed me, you would know it's worth it to fall. I really don't want to climb up. And if heaven's so lonely, won't you stop with perfect? Because I've got no way to come along. If you really missed me, you would know it's worth it to fall. I really don't want to climb up.
Thank you so much to Maci DeBlanc for joining us. She's fantastic. If you want to find her, facebook.com/Maci DeBlanc or on Instagram, DeBlanc Maci. Links are in the description, so check that out. Next time, we're going to be joined by the professor from Tolarian Community College, which is super exciting. So if you love what we do, consider supporting us on Patreon and make sure to subscribe so you see the next episode with Prof. It's going to be a good one. Thank you so much. Once more, Maci DeBlanc. Good night.
Crisscross, could you not? I'm just so tired of everything. Take off what you've got so I can look at you plain. But if you ask me, I won't know. Somebody else goes away from here. And if you say what I won't show, everyone else knows.